Story 1. Oh my goodness, it finally happened to me. I never thought it would, but today, it happened, and I have finally stopped shaking long enough to tell it. After work today, I went to my local grocery store because I was out of both waffles and garlic salt, which are both essential to my continued existence in this challenging country. Now, yes, I had just gotten off work, but my job is extremely casual. I wear jeans and a t-shirt daily. Today, that t-shirt was navy in color, with a dinosaur in the middle of a meteor shower trying not to cry with the caption, "I'm doing my best on it." All this to say, I should never be mistaken for an employee anywhere. They had rearranged the spice aisle for some reason, so I was trying to hunt down the cheap garlic salt 89 cents versus over $3, so I was determined to find it. Jamming out to Hamilton, my purse across my body, very clearly a customer, when this absolute witch rammed me with her cart. It wasn't super hard, and I only stumbled a bit. But still, what in the world, lady? I turned to look, and there she was. 60s, brown Karen hair with bad highlights, oversized knockoff purse, huge sunglasses on top of her head, and a stunningly ironic Trump 2020 inches face mask on. I pulled out one earbud. Can I help you?" I asked. I was born and raised in the Midwest. I am polite to a fault. She replied in a snooty, condescending voice. "Shouldn't you not have those on while you're working?" Excuse me," I stammered. I was both baffled and have a bit of social anxiety, so this confrontation was really weirding me out. Ugh, you darn millennials. I legitimately thought stuff like this was only said on TV or by the traffic cone in chief. So rude and lazy. Stop wandering and help me find. She started rattling off a list really fast. Now, I have a little bit of an auditory processing problem. Not enough to hinder me in day-to-day life. But basically, I have great hearing. I can hear just fine. But it'll sometimes take me a second or two to process what I heard, especially when I'm stressed out or distracted. I'll say "what" to you, and halfway through you repeating yourself, it'll click in my head, and I'll cut you off kind of thing. Normally, to combat this, I tend to just read people's lips because my eyes work faster than my ears. But, COVID-19 happened, so no visual crutch for me. I could have helped. I know that store like the back of my hand, and I'm overly accommodating when flustered. I just needed her to slow down a bit. Also, keep in mind for the rest of this, I tend to respond a beat or two after she finishes speaking. "I'm sorry, I can't," I began. She started screeching, "Did you just interrupt me?" I was now freaking out because she was drawing attention to this, and oh my god, did I want to melt into the floor? I said, I'm sorry, I just didn't understand." "Oh my goodness, why don't you just go back to Mexico then if you don't understand English?" she yelled. I was just utterly baffled at that point. Not because of that stunning display of moronic and hypocritical racism, it's Indiana. I'm kinda desensitized to it at this point. Oh no, that's too easy. You see, dear reader, not only had I obviously been speaking perfect, unaccented English for this whole encounter, not only had I hardly spoken a word of Spanish since college, not only was I actually born in Michigan, but I am literally so painfully white. I'm talking naturally blonde hair, blue eyes, horrifically pale skin, kind of white. I got none of the good Italian genes, just the dark as heck circles under my eyes that no amount of sleep can cure. I wasn't even in the international food aisle. How in the world this confused woman thought I was Mexican still utterly astounds me, and it probably always will. If I didn't understand her before, I understood her less now. At this point, I was literally unable to turn off being polite. "Ma'am, please leave me alone, I don't." She interrupted me. "How dare you talk to customers like that? Where is your manager?" Shaking and feeling tears well up because I really don't like being yelled at, I said, "Please stop yelling, I don't." "Don't talk back to me, you little brat. Get me your manager." Manager, comprendo, you stupid racial slur for Mexicans. Now, again, reader, I am crazy white. Just so white. So white that I actually looked behind me to just make sure this insanity was actually directed at me. But you remember how I said I was desensitized to racism at this point? Yeah, not that desensitized apparently. Now I was getting angry but still too darn polite for my own good. "Ma'am, that's really offensive. Could you not say things like that and just leave me?" She was literally shrieking and grabbing my freaking arm. "How dare you curse at me, you little witch? How was I a witch in this scenario? Lord knows. So, a fun thing I learned about myself today is that while my fight or flight response is still frozen, apparently my social anxiety has a temporary rage override. I yelled, "Get your filthy hands off of me and step the heck back, you racist hillbilly." Darn, I yanked my arm back, and she actually let go, looking at me just stunned. You don't get to just grab people whenever you want, you entitled piece of trash, especially not in a pandemic. Now back off. I don't even work here. At this point, we'd drawn a reasonable crowd, and an actual employee rushed over and stepped a little between us. The employee asked, "What seems to be the problem?" She straightened up and glared at me again. "Your coworker cursed me out and shoved me when I just wanted some help finding things on my list." Y'all, was this woman serious? Did she think no one else heard her screeching? The employee glanced at me for literally 1 second. "Yeah, she doesn't work here." "Of course she does. She has an ID badge," she insisted. She pointed to my purse, and I looked down to see that my work ID had indeed come out of my purse. I keep it on a bungee, but it clearly stated the chemical company I work for in large, bold, green letters. The store colors are red and black. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to lower your voice and calm down, or I'll have to ask you to leave. Our employees don't have ID badges like that." "She doesn't work here," the employee explained. "Well, she still assaulted me and I want to press charges," she yelled. Now, at this point, my temporary rage override was fading and I was shaking, trying not to cry, and on the verge of a panic attack again. I literally could not speak to defend myself. And then my hero appeared. This awesome dude, another shopper, who'd come into the aisle sometime during her tirade. He looked about my dad's age, mid-50s. He said, "That's not true. That crazy lady grabbed this poor girl's arm. This young lady never touched her." After hearing him speak up, others in the crowd chimed in to my defense. The racist lady shrunk down, realizing that no one was on her side. The employee turned to me. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" the employee asked. I already regret this, but I shook my head. I couldn't speak at that point. I just desperately wanted to go home and get away from this lady and all of those eyes. The employee nodded in agreement just as the store manager came over. The employee told me, "You can go. I'll handle things with my manager." The Karen was still sticking to her guns for some reason. "You're letting her go? Didn't you hear me? She attacked me. I want her arrested and deported back to Mexico." The awesome customer who came to my rescue said, "Lady, are you sick in the head? She has blonde hair and blue eyes. She's not Mexican. And even if she was, you assaulted her." After another assurance from the employee and the manager, I just scurried out of that place without my garlic salt or my waffles, had a lovely panic attack in my car, drove home once I felt safe enough to do so, and here I am, only shaking a little bit and starting to realize how kind of hilarious that all was. I'll go back for the waffles and the garlic salt tomorrow. For tonight, I need a drink. So I took some of the reader's advice and did the police report first before heading back to the store. I had a cop come with me to request the security tapes. The same store manager and employee were there, so I got to thank them properly, which was great, and I got to learn what happened after I left. Apparently, the woman kept screeching and making enough of a scene that the manager finally banned her from the store. They got her picture, but not her information, so I don't know how that's going to go for me. I am also told that the awesome customer from last night and a couple of others had left their info with the manager just in case I did indeed come back with cops, which restored my faith in humanity a bit. The cops are going to do their thing, and they'll let me know if they need anything else from me and if they find her at all. Meanwhile, the employee from last night helped me find my cheap garlic salt, and I splurged and got myself 2 boxes of waffles and a pint of ice cream like an absolute madwoman. Today has definitely been a lot better. Story 2. Some people are nice during this virus issue, some are not. I live within walking distance from a grocery store and it offers car service. However, to get that, you should be parked in the spots marked for such. I don't know much more about the service since, as I live nearby, I never needed people to give me stuff in my car. So I needed some essentials and for some odd reason, I can't use my food stamps online to buy food. Well, that is a poor design feature in this troublesome time. So I head out decked out in good gear, I guess. a black face mask, black gloves, and yes, everything else I was wearing was black, including the hat. While I was in the store, people were still quite chatty, and I got asked where things were by people or comments that I looked like a ninja. Considering the people were looking at their phones with confusion and everyone seemed to have a list not made by them, I am pretty sure that they were all personal shoppers or whatever that delivery person who picks up your groceries is called. I paid for my items and they filled 2 bags. I then went outside. There was a Pokemon Go stop nearby, so I figured I would just chill for a second, play the game as I tried to remember if I needed anything else from any of the other stores nearby, all groceries, just different foods in them. I noticed a few cars parked in the fire lane with people just sitting in them. I decided that nothing else would be needed after checking my list on my phone as well. I turned off my phone and grabbed my bags. I started to walk off when I heard a honk. I jumped as I was startled, but then started to walk again. The honk happened again. I jumped. It was coming from the car near me that was parked in the fire lane. I started, confused, and slowly started to creep away. The woman driving the car got out of the car, not in any gear for going out in these times. "Put them in the car," she barked. What? I was confused. "Put them in the car, now," she snapped and pointed to my grocery bags. Mind you, my grocery bags are reusable and are sealable so no one can see in them. I looked at my groceries and then at her. "Huh? You want my groceries?" "Of course, I paid for them. Put them in," she snapped. I looked at her confused. "No, and no. Unless you are my food stamps card, you didn't buy them." "Later," I said and started to walk off. "Come back here. You can't steal my groceries. You are my personal shopper," snapped the Karen. I stopped and stared at her. "What?" I asked. "You are my personal shopper. I ordered my food," she snapped. I looked at her confused as it dawned on me. I don't work here. They don't dress like ninjas." I started but couldn't continue as she was yelling at me. "Lies. Give me my groceries," she yelled, and more things of the like. Seriously, I was done at this point and started to rush off, trying not to listen to the insanity. It was mental. Lessons I learned from this are, people will still think you work somewhere even if you look like you are going to rob the place or are out to steal ninja scrolls. That you can't have a moment to think in view of others, or they will think you are a personal shopper. And running with a face mask on is a good way to get out of breath and hot way faster. Story 3. So this was back toward the beginning of quarantine. I'm a delivery guy for a sandwich chain, so my hours got cut, but I worked through the whole time. I live and work in a bit of an upper middle class area which I could only afford by renting a place with 3 friends. This is imperative to showcasing the sense of entitlement in this story. So I'm delivering to another high-end-ish chain restaurant up the road, which is pretty common. I walk into this place, and there's no one at the counter or registers, but there is a middle-aged woman, and what I can only assume to be her daughter in the lobby, looking very annoyed, waiting to have their order taken. The woman looks at me, dressed head to toe in my uniform, which literally has my company's logo and name printed all over it. She turns and proceeds to ask me, "Do you work here?" I stared at her blankly for a second, unsure if she was joking, and very slowly answered, "No, I work at my company's name." I looked down at my shirt and pointed to my hat. She burst out in an uncomfortable laugh, then asked me, "Can you go get someone? We've been waiting here for a while." I kind of laugh and reply with, "Again, I don't work here, and I know for a fact that this place has limited staff due to an international pandemic, just like every other restaurant right now." I walk past her to the side counter that overlooks the kitchen, deliver the manager his food, and leave. She looked incredulous, as if I was supposed to speak to the other food service workers in a completely foreign company about anything regarding their business. As if it was below her to do it herself. I can't stand people sometimes. Story 4. This happened about 10 years ago. I was 18 and doing my public service. Austria has mandatory military service for all 18-year-old males. If you refuse, you have to serve a longer time in a community project or government agency. I was with the local police. So, stuff happened, and one late evening, my mom was rushed to the hospital. Things were confusing and hectic, so I grabbed whatever was on the drying rack and ran over to the clinic. So there I was, looking for the ward my mom was admitted to. wearing my dad's way oversized white shirt. A woman came over to me and asked where Mrs. XY's room is. Me. I'm very sorry, I don't know who that is. Lady. I'm her sister. I want you to tell me at once what you are intending to do about her illness. You must be confusing me with someone who works here. I'm sorry, I'm looking for my mother. Nonsense, doctor, you clearly work here. I will not let myself be sent away like yesterday. I have the right to know about my sister. Is it the shirt? That's just a white shirt, not a lab coat. I want to speak to your superior. Please do that, I'm not working here. At this point, I just walked away quickly, as I had definitely other stuff on my mind than defending my poor choice of clothing that night. Turns out I was a bit too early at the hospital, and my mom wasn't in the system yet, so nobody could tell me anything. A year later, I passed the entrance exam to medical school, and now I'm in my residency, so maybe I can help you indeed with your relatives now. But not my 18-year-old self with pimples and braces. Seriously, do I look like a surgeon?